Yesterday, a judge on Staten Island ruled that the right to shelter rule doesn't really exist. Judge Wayne Ozzie says the 42-year-old consent decree that has been interpreted as a mandate to provide shelter has never been properly tested by a court. The judge wrote, the consent decree was entered into to address a specific problem existing at the time to provide housing for unfortunate New Yorkers, and the judge emphasized New Yorkers who needed shelter. The judge issued an injunction that says the shelter should be cleared out, but the city said immediately that it would appeal. This ruling stems from opposition to the shelter recently opened at the old St. John Villa School. Staten Island Republicans and one area resident joined together to file a lawsuit to challenge the shelter at the site. One of the people who joined in that lawsuit, Staten Island Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, who's with me now. Congresswoman, thank you for being with us.
Good morning.
The mayor was not happy with this ruling, but at the same time was in a Manhattan court, or city representatives were in a Manhattan court, saying that they don't want to be bound by the right to shelter. They're trying to have it both ways here. What do you think the end result is going to be?
Well, that's exactly right. On one hand, you have the mayor saying he's trying to reduce the burden of right to shelter, particularly as it relates to migrants. Here, we win a court decision that allows him to do that, and he's appealing it. So it doesn't really make sense. And I hope people like you continue to hold the mayor to account here, because he's saying one thing, but doing another. And the judge yesterday said exactly what I've been saying for the last year, that the right to shelter decree was intended for homeless New Yorkers, not 8 billion people on the planet that may want to come to New York. Look, it's clear this is unsustainable. The mayor's talking about across the board 15% cut to citizens, taxpaying citizens who deserve services. And yet when we give them an opportunity to start reducing this policy, start eliminating people from the shelters little by little, to say that this was a bad experiment, his interpretation was wrong, he chooses not to do that. The reality is that we can't continue to do this. We need Senator Schumer to pass our Border Security Act. We can work on a bipartisan solution here. If he doesn't like our bill, he should pass his own bill. But the Senate needs to do something, because we cannot continue the open border policies of this president. It's disastrous. And it's not just the amount of people that are flooding our country in New York. Look, there's concerns here. Fentanyl is streaming over our border. Yesterday, the city announced that you need Narcan. If you're in New York, carry Narcan with you. This is the first time we've ever come to this point in New York, and it's because we have an open border and the drug cartels are taking advantage of it. The drug trafficking, the human trafficking, the cartels are making $13 billion a year doing it. We should never encourage people to be coming over our border unsafely. We should be fixing our system, which means enforcing our laws, but also recognizing we do need to increase the number of visas so we know who is coming in and out of our country, and there's a pathway for them to do it correctly.
Mm-hmm. There's so many ways we could go with this, and I don't want to get into a back and forth over whether there's a straight line between the drug cartels and all of these things you're talking about. But I do want to put forward that there are people on Staten Island and elsewhere who are supportive of the shelter. We talked to the executive director of the Staten Island Immigrant Rights Coalition, who said that Republicans on Staten Island, you and others, are taking advantage of this situation.
What we don't understand and we're not in agreement with is what this particular group in Staten Island that has been protesting has been trying to cause harm to migrants and including police. We just saw how last week they ended up injuring a police officer. What we're trying to say is that we're not in agreement with how they're instilling fear. They're telling people, we're going to kill you, you come out of that shelter. That's what we're hearing, and elected officials are riling them up despite them hearing that.
Congresswoman, has this been overly politicized?
First of all, I've not heard anyone making a threat, as that woman suggests. What I will say simply is my office has helped hundreds of individuals who have come the right way into this country become citizens, get their green card, get work authorization. We should continue to help those individuals who follow the laws and do everything right. What the mayor has created by incentivizing people to come the wrong way is a real problem that is unsustainable. And taxpayers are upset, and rightfully so. They're seeing this was supposed to be a school, a 1,000-seat school that is desperately needed on Staten Island that was taken away from the taxpayers. We're seeing now our national parks being taken away from the taxpayers. And today we're going to have a hearing on that in Washington. I have legislation also to stop it. But you sort of assisted living. Just this week, I was with a 95-year-old veteran who was among senior citizens who were told they had to leave an assisted living facility. And then months later, it turned around a shady deal between the operators, Homes for the Homeless, and the mayor to turn it into a migrant shelter. At what point are we going to say, look, enough is enough? My parents came to this country. No one ever housed them. Nobody ever paid for all their needs. And most immigrants in this city feel the same way. And I can tell you one thing, the immigrant communities that I represent are among the ones who are most upset. Because they have relatives that are waiting. They've done everything right. And they're now at the back of the line because the president is prioritizing the individuals who come over the border first and the working way backwards, which means if you've been in the country waiting for work authorization legally, you can't obtain it at this moment.
On that topic of working in the country, the president made a move last week to allow a lot of the Venezuelan migrants to get work permits more quickly. Are you supportive of that?
Well, look, I would certainly work with my colleagues on a resolution for work authorization if we were able to secure border security. Now, this is the issue. The problem that I have is that I have someone who is from the Ukraine who claimed asylum. They've been waiting for years to get asylum. Their case is now backlogged. I have somebody who had work authorization that it has now expired. They cannot get renewal. They're being told 16 months. So what the president is doing is putting individuals ahead of those who have been waiting in line. And I have a problem with that. The second thing is in New York City, under the law that Bill de Blasio passed on the way out the door, individuals who receive work authorization and reside in New York City for 30 days would be eligible to register to vote in municipal elections. That's another situation where we're fighting the mayor in court. We won the first round. And once again, the mayor appealed. So that prevents me from supporting work authorization at this time until we could resolve that issue. Because, if we're going to have individuals who are here from 30 days coming from 20 different countries who are not citizens being eligible to vote in our city elections, that presents a problem.
Congresswoman Malliotakis, a lot more to talk about on this, but we're out of time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.